When it comes to my current social life, there's two things that I really do like to talk about. That being Hazbin Hotel, because I really do like the series, and on top of that, music. And if I'm being completely honest, ever since the show was finished, I found myself coming back to the soundtrack more and more over time. So the other day, I came up with the bright idea of talking about all the songs and ranking them from least favorite to most favorite in the soundtrack. So I sat back, re-listened to the whole soundtrack twice, came to a conclusion of what I thought was the good ranking, and now I'm here to make this video to explain to you my ranking of my favorite Hazbin Hotel songs from least favorite to most favorite. So first things first, before I start, I don't think there's a single song on the soundtrack that I would consider bad. There is a song on the list that I do dislike, but other than that, there's nothing really here that I would say that I dislike to the point where I would call it a bad song or musically bad. And the song I'm of course talking about is Welcome to Heaven. Yes, I do dislike this song quite a lot. I feel like it's an off-cut song from a Lego movie. I feel like it's the type of song that you would consider the worst in the Trolls movie, etc. And if I'm being honest, I don't think I gained anything from listening to it. I didn't gain anything in the story, I didn't gain anything because of its length, and to be honest, it's just like really not appealing. It doesn't have good vocals, it has an okay beat, there's nothing I can really like about this. And on top of that, the whole song is sung by an unnamed character that holds no relevance to the story that I have no invested interest in. Which is why I'm actually ending out this song with a 4.5 out of 10. I'm not really a fan of it whatsoever. I actually dislike it more than I like it. Now the next song for me on this list happens to be Ready for This. This is the song that Charlie sings in Cannibal Town, and I'm not really a fan of it whatsoever. And if I'm kind of being honest, I kind of forgot this song existed. Even when I was getting the rankings ready, I completely forgot Ready for This because it's just so irrelevant to me. It's so boring, nothing much happened, and it's like the worst vocals from Charlie in the whole soundtrack. Now within the confines of the show it makes sense, but in the confines of the song, the stoppy startiness when the trade between the cannibals and Charlie just doesn't work well as a song. And if it doesn't work well as a song, it misses half the point of a musical. So realistically, if I'm being honest, I don't really rate this high at all, which is sad because Rosie's one of my favorite characters. So in conclusion, I'm rating this song a 4.5 to 5 out of 10. Now next up on this list, as much as it pains me to say, is It Starts With Sorry. As much as I think it's leaps and bounds better than the first two, I still think this song's a little boring. Now as much as I do like a good piano ballad, I'm still not really for this song for a few reasons. For one, the duet between Sir Pentious and Charlie just is kind of lopsided. Charlie's a way better singer than Sir Pentious, and it feels lopsided due to it. On top of this, there's not much going on with the piano, so there's not much to build off, and it's just basically one-dimensional from start to finish. Also, a little bit of a nitpick here, but like the way Charlie starts saying sorry differently halfway through the song feels weird. Like she starts by saying it normally and then starts saying sorry, kind of similar to how Sir Pentious does, is a little bit off-putting. So yeah, I kind of have this song as like a 5.5 to 6. I'm not the hugest fan of this song, but it's okay. Now the next song on this list happens to be the More Than Anything reprisal. Most people will forget this happens, but the Vaggie and Charlie duet is probably Vaggie's best singing performance in the whole soundtrack. The voices complement each other really well, and the only thing that holds this song back is the fact that it's like the shortest song on the soundtrack, being a minute flat. And if I'm being more specific, it's actually more like 58 seconds, since the last 2 seconds is actually just dead space. So yeah, just based off the fact that there wasn't enough of it, it's like a 5.5 to 6 out of 10. The next one I have on this list is Happy Day in Hell, and yes, it does get a little annoying at times, but it has grown on me since my first watch of the show. Now while I do agree it's a little bit on the nose, I also agree it has some of Charlie's best singing when it comes to the break midway through the song, and on top of that, as much as the swearing is a little off-putting in the final notes, overall I still find the song passable and pretty good. Now the reason I had this song over the other songs is I feel like it feels more like a song, and it feels far more complete than the other very short songs or songs that are a little bit too annoying for me. So yeah, in conclusion, I'd have this song as a solid 6 out of 10. I do like it, but I do find it a little annoying. Now next up on the list for me has to be Finale. Of course, Finale is pretty similar to Happy Day in Hell. It's supposed to be an outro song, while that's an intro song into the series, and I do find it a little annoying at times, but I do like it a little bit more. Now a lot like Happy Day in Hell, I do find it kind of uninteresting. At the same time, I do like it, and I do think it presents a good outro to the series, giving us good little outros from the V's or even Alastor to kind of break apart the song and give us what we need to kind of outro. But there's something I feel like this song is lacking, it's its replay value. I can't listen to this song over and over again like I can most of the soundtrack, and that's something that kind of weighs it down to me. So yeah, once again, I had to give this a good 6 out of 10. Now the next one on this list for me is gonna make so many people mad, but sadly I have Poison right here. Now before you go grabbing your pitchforks and spewing the biggest hate comment you can, take a second because I do make a good point. Poison overall is just kind of badly mixed, if I'm being honest. For one, Poison's vocals sound overly compressed, and the EQ takes away all the color in the vocals that initially existed. Like, do me a favor, go listen to Poison and then go listen to Loser Baby. The colorful voice in Loser Baby just isn't there in Poison, and you can tell straight off the mix. And on top of that, if I'm being honest, I would rather listen to Blake's real voice. The Angel Dust voice just doesn't really work for this type of song. If you listen at the end of the song, the very somber and tearful voice just fits so well. It's so beautiful, so colorful. There's so much just added there that is way better to listen to than what we hear across most of the song. And on top of that, the yeah also kind of throws me off a little bit. So while I do like the aesthetic and the idea of the song, I do find the execution kind of poor. So yeah, if I'm being honest, a 6 out of 10 is all I'm going to give it. As much as I do like the song and it has a really catchy hook, there's just a few things that throw me off. So now that we're through this part of the video, let's go through all the songs I really do like, starting off with Out for Love. Now, I gotta be honest for a second, the only reason Out for Love is so low well on the list for me is just because it's not enough of it. I wish there was more to it. It's got a really catchy hook, a really catchy bridge. I like Carmilla's voice constantly changing from track to track, but at the end of the day, it's also pretty short and there's not a whole lot to the song. Like, if only this song had a second verse that I could really get into, something that can change up the track, add more to the track, and give me more times to listen. But at the end of the day, the song is just kind of one-dimensional, sadly. So yeah, me personally, I have Out for Love at a 7 out of 10. The next one for me on this list has to be Whatever It Takes. Yes, another Carmilla song, and I do really like this song, but it has slight issues. Now, let's start off with all the positives. For one, the 2000s pop rock instrumental is really my thing, really nostalgic, and I'm all for it. And at the same time too, though, I find Carmilla's lyrics to be some of the most compelling in the soundtrack. If you think about that type of sacrifice to protect what you need, what you love, is so important to me, and I find it really compelling. But on the other side of the coin for a second, I don't find Vaggy's part at all compelling. I don't think her voice fits the track really whatsoever. I don't think she fits the duet she's doing with Carmilla. I don't find her actual lyrics compelling whatsoever. On one hand, Carmilla has this very full and rangy voice, while on the other hand, Vaggy's voice is just so high that it kind of rings my ears. So yeah, in my personal opinion, I can't give this song any higher than a 7 just because one half of the song is clearly inferior to the other. And with that, finally brings me to the next one on this list, which has to be More Than Anything. I really do like this song. I feel like it's the best version of that Disney-esque type of sound that was going for across the soundtrack. Songs like It Starts With Sorry or even the finale are really in that tune too, but I feel like More Than Anything is the best version of that across the soundtrack. If I had to be honest for a second, I feel like the duet carries this track super heavy. I feel like it's one of the best pure duets in the series. Lucifer has to have one of my favorite voices across the whole soundtrack. And on top of that, Charlie's voice fits Lucifer's perfectly, kind of just backing up that father-daughter dynamic and taking it to the next level. Now, if I had to name the things that hold this song back, I feel like it's just not that unique. I feel like I've heard multiple songs in the soundtrack pretty similar, that type of duet Disney-esque type of flow. While on the other hand, every other song I have above it is unique in its own way and memorable. So yeah, to me, More Than Everything is a solid 7.5 out of 10. Okay, let's take a second and get one thing straight for a second. Hell's Greatest Dad is one of the most unique songs on the soundtrack and one of the funnest. I feel like when it comes to using someone like Alastor, you have to be very careful. The radio voice makes it very hard to have him in a lot of singing songs, so therefore you have to use him in something like this. I feel like as an introduction to Lucifer, it works well. I feel like showing him versus Alastor and the tension instantly is great. Alastor's little jazz by trying to use Charlie as a pawn is amazing. I feel like it's really fun and I have a lot of fun with this track. Overall, there's songs I like better than it, but it's so unique and so fun that I have to give it like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10. Now that we have that out of the way, I feel like we're finally into the top 5 and I can start it off with Stay Gone. If I had to define Stay Gone in one word, I'd use the word chaotic. Like, take Vox's verse for example. Vox's verse is so chaotic. Every 2 to 4 bars, the rhythm changes, the tone changes, the range changes, etc. And what makes this choice of a type of song is how much dialogue and information they try and cram within the song. Now, with the amount of times I've listened to the song, there's 2 big conclusions I've drawn. The song is super unique and I do like it for this factor, but at the same time too, though, I feel like a little too much is happening. Like, at the end of the day, did we really need those female harmonizations that appeared once in the track, or that 8th flow switch from Vox? I feel like a little goes a long way and control is sometimes needed. So yeah, for me personally, a 7.5 to 8, I really do like this song, but I do think a little too much is happening. Now that we got that one out of the way, let's move on to number 4, which I have is Hell Is Forever. Now for me personally, the reason why I rate Hell Is Forever so highly is because it does what it's exactly supposed to do. It's supposed to introduce Adam and make us hate him. And it does this while simultaneously making a pretty good pop rock song. I feel like the song does an amazing job of making it painfully clear that we should not like Adam. Whether it be the obnoxious yet catchy chorus from Adam, or just the misogynistic lyrics that are presented across the whole track, the song has a super clear goal that it's trying to present and executes it well and makes a good song in the process. I have to give it an 8. So yeah, realistically an 8 out of 10, and number 4 on the list makes the most sense to me. Now for my number 3 on the list, I know this song's a hot take. Not many people like this one, but I think You Didn't Know is one of the best songs on the soundtrack. Now to me personally, You Didn't Know is amazing in so many ways. Just the very idea that as every person sings and a new singer comes in, the instruments themselves change around the singer. Yet at the same time, every time the singer changes and the track morphs so drastically, it still flows so perfectly. There's no real issues with the flow of the song. And you know what I find even more amazing? As the song shifts, evolves, and turns into something else, it eventually turns into an interpolation of Hell Is Forever. The amount of creativity and work put into this song is probably the most on the whole soundtrack, and for that I have to value it. And to me at least, the only real issue I could see anyone pointing out about this song that would be at all valid is it's probably not the most cohesive piece of music. But at the same time too though, I really do have to question this. Does it really need to be that cohesive? I feel like it's that type of controlled chaos that I was looking for from a song like Stay Gone. So realistically, in my opinion, I have no issue with putting a song like this at an 8.5 to 9, because I feel like it truly does fit that category for a song within this type of soundtrack. And with that pick finalized, I feel like number 3 is truly out of the way and we can finally move on to the second best song to me within the soundtrack. And honestly, no other song makes sense to me like Respectless does. Now of course I should summarize it with this way: I'm a hip hop head, I love rap, and because of that, Respectless is obviously going to be scored high for me. And honestly, Velvet's verse within Respectless follows to a T. It even has things like internal syllable rhyming or even multi-syllable rhyming. Both of these are very important for a rap verse. And the verse itself from Velvet carries those very UK grind rhythms rhythms, those very staccato rhythms, very to the point, very off-kiltered on the beat. And see, that's what I love about this verse. So many musicals do these cringe little rap verses that never turn out well because they do none of the research and get none of the details right. You did the research, you got the details right, and you made something of worth. And on top of this, what makes it even better is the fact that it complements Carmilla's singing so much. Carmilla has these big, long, stretched out notes, and they're complemented by these short rapping notes that make it all flow into one. And because of this amazing dynamic, I feel like it just makes one of the best back and forths across the whole soundtrack. And because of all these factors, I feel like Respectless is definitely a 9 out of 10. And now, before we get to the final spot, I have to remind everyone to like and subscribe. We're on our way to 15,000 subscribers, and I want to get there soon. If you can do it, it would mean the world. Now, with that little self-advert out of the way, let's get to the final pick, which is obviously Loser Baby. Let me quickly get this out of the way for a second. Loser Baby does almost everything perfectly. First things first, I feel like Angel Dust's vocals are especially vibrant, especially colourful, and also not just dead in the mix. This is an issue I previously had with a song like Poison, when I found that it was especially flat due to things like bad mixing and just bad vocal choices. And on top of this, I find Husk's voice to be especially amazing. This really bassy voice presents these different types of vocals that don't appear in the rest of the soundtrack. And realistically, it's also one of my favourite duets. I feel like both voices mesh together perfectly, and it creates this type of back and forth that's just lovable. To me, this is the type of song where you can not know anything about Hazbin Hotel, never watch it, and still like this song enough to save it. And I feel like that's its most powerful quality. So realistically, the only rating that makes sense to me is a 9.5 for Loser Baby. It's the best on the soundtrack, and I can't say anything else. So that's my ranking, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like. Let me know in the comments your own rankings and things you disagree with. I want to hear them all. I want to have a conversation. See you guys.